Cameron Chardukian here, and what I want to talk to you about in this video is why I always preferred and prioritized living near the office as a software engineer. Now, obviously, there's a huge debate going on right now about remote versus return to office, and you're probably feeling something similar to me where you prefer working remotely, and I think most young people do prefer working remotely today, but that's not always an option depending on where you're at in your career. And sometimes things like company prestige or higher pay could also influence you to go into the office, even if that's not your preference. Or maybe you do like going to the office. Either way, I still think that in general, unless you're working full remote, or unless you are on some kind of hybrid schedule where you only go into the office once a month or maybe at most once a week, I think you should try to live near the office. Here's why, and here's why I always have lived within just a mile or two of the office for my entire career. Well, excluding when I worked remotely, but that doesn't really count. So when you live near the office, there's a few benefits. Number one is you save a lot of money on commuting. Whether you rely on Uber or some kind of public transportation, and you're always having to buy fares, book rides. Obviously, you don't have to do that if you can walk to the office or bike to the office. Or even if you're driving, you have your own vehicle and you're going to the office, gas still adds up. So first benefit of living near the office is that you tend to be able to save money. Now, you might say, well, actually, the rent near the office is more expensive than where I would be renting or buying otherwise. Well, this is, maybe they do balance out, or maybe it's even more expensive to live near the office, even with the amount of money you saved on gas or transportation being accounted for. For me, that hasn't been the case, just as being mostly a single guy or a guy with a girlfriend, always being able to live in a one-bedroom apartment or even studio at times. But, if you've got a 4-bedroom house and the options are living out in the burbs or living near the office, then of course, maybe the income to, not the income, but the expense ratio doesn't add up. So maybe then you do have to live further away. But in general, you can save a lot of money commuting if you're living close to the office. Second is that when you live near the office, you don't have to feel stressed about the commuting. It can be really stressful to commute across the whole city. Maybe pollution is flying in your face. Maybe you got to deal with crazies on the subway. Or if you're driving, you're somewhere like Dallas or Atlanta and there's bad traffic, then even if you're not dealing with like smoke going into your face or a lot of physical danger, you still got to feel tense as you're trying to merge onto the freeway and do your 45-minute commute. So that's not always a lot of fun. So that's why another reason I've always tried to live near the office is because I don't want to put up with that 2, 3, 4 times a week. And heaven forbid if you got to go to the office every day and you're fighting a commute an hour and a half of the way there, hour and a half on the way back. If you can avoid it, if you're in a position in life where it's possible to avoid it, a lot of times it makes sense, even if the neighborhood near the office isn't as cool or something like that. Next, if you're living near the office and you're a junior or early in your career, it can encourage you to go into the office more. Now, why is this a good thing? Well, if you are earlier in your career, going into the office has huge benefits. Number one, you can build connections with the people that work at your workplace. So you can go to lunch with them, you can just chat about the industry, or just chat about fishing, football, anything really. And this is good for a couple reasons. One, it puts a face to that avatar on Teams or that avatar on Slack. So if the higher-ups ever got to do layoffs, or your manager has to think about how you are going to be rated in your performance review, you might have some more leeway. You might get a better rating, slightly better rating than you otherwise would have. Of course, job performance is always the primary thing, but it's not going to hurt you, I'll tell you that. Unless you're a weirdo. And even if you're a weirdo, you could be like the friendly weirdo like me, so it's all good. Next, if you're junior in your career and you're going to the office a lot, it's great because then when you get stuck, you can go and ask people for help easier. I found in my career, if I ping somebody on Slack, they tend to take longer to respond. A lot of people take longer to respond if they're working from home or if they're in the office and I'm not in the office. Whereas if you are in the office and you have a problem, sometimes you can just be like, hey man, how does this work? And sometimes people, you don't want to interrupt people's flow, so you don't always do that, but sometimes you can do that, or sometimes people, they're just curious. People want to chat. Sometimes people are social. Whoa, mind blowing to the engineer's brain. And sometimes if you are in some kind of on-site or hybrid work arrangement, people will go around and just talk to other people just to pass the time, right? If you got to be there from 9 to 5, or you got to be there from 10 to 7, whatever the case may be, and you're required to be on site, people want to pass the time. Maybe they already finished all their work. Maybe they're working on something mentally strenuous and they can't focus anymore. So they come and talk to you, and that's a great opportunity to say, blah, 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 shoot the shit a little bit, and then ask them, I've been approaching this problem this way, and I tried this, and I got this result, but I need this. Do you have any advice? Or if you were in my position, how would you tackle that? You'd be surprised. Even people that aren't on your team, they might be willing to help you. And that's something I leveraged a lot earlier in my career when I didn't really know what was going on with the code. So that's another benefit of living near the office. If you are junior in your career, it can give you motivation to go into the office more often. And then you're going to be in closer proximity to people, lowering your risk of being laid off, potentially due to the proximity effect. Scientists have studied that when we are around people and we spend a lot of time with them, we tend to like them more. And you know, if you're useless with the code, if you're not a great coder yet, you better be well liked if you want to keep your job. Other than that, being in the office a lot can help you build those connections, which can also be useful for referrals later in your career. And those are the big things that I've seen as benefits when you live closer to the office. To summarize it up again, number one, you can save a lot of money on commuting. Number two, you save a lot of time on commuting. see something in common here, commuting's awful. And number three is you can put yourself in a position where you don't feel resistance to going into the office. So you go to the office more, and due to the proximity effect, people might perceive you as being, well, more likable, or themselves being as more connected to you. And it's easier to get help for you when you're early in your career. Now, this video is not some return to office promotional video. To be honest, I prefer full remote. But depending on where you're at in your career, and depending on about your own personality, the way you're wired and what your goals are, going into the office can still make a lot of sense. And if you are going to go into the office, living closer to the office can be really nice.